Good afternoon. My name is Ken Cross, and I'm running for the office of President of the United States. The topic of today's video is the Quality Education Initiative. The preamble to our Constitution reads, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." The question before us is, does the national government have a role in education? I believe the answer to that is yes. The preamble has as some statements the following. One of them is promote the general welfare. Surely the general welfare of our citizens are enhanced if the federal government takes a role in making sure that our citizens are adequately educated. To form a more perfect union, for the states to interface with each other in commerce and, more importantly, in our national military, there needs to be certain minimum standard of communication, of English, and also of mathematical capabilities. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Many believe, as I do, that an educated populace is necessary for democratic forms of government to thrive or even survive. What is the proper role for national government in education then? Is it to micromanage classroom activity? No. I have two children who are in the field of education, and there are times they mention that are in their classrooms that the students are learning very rapidly on a particular subject matter like mathematics, and it's important to be able to continue on teaching that without restrictions while they're in a fast learning curve. Then pick up the English and other courses at other times when they're learning those fast. So the federal government shouldn't micromanage, and even for that matter, the states or local governments should not try to manage the hour-by-hour activities of a classroom. So what does the federal government do? One, some testing is required at some level to ensure that all of the states are doing something that is sufficient to educate their people. Also, I believe it's important at a federal level to implement programs that provide hope and incentives for academic achievement. The way that I would do that is with my academic education initiative. With my program, the government would provide a grant of $200 per credit hour for each student. With a normal workload of 15 credit hours at $200 an hour, 200 times 15 is $3,000 per semester. The maximum that would be allowed per year would be $9,000 for a student who has a fall semester, a spring semester, and goes to summer school as well. The student must be enrolled in an accredited college or university and maintain a C average. The program would be administered by the states with federal funds. Grants would be deposited by colleges into individual student aid accounts. The aid amounts would be able to be used by students for tuition, books, rent, food, whatever they wanted to use the money for. There would be no parent or student financial aid form filled out, so as to avoid a huge bureaucracy that now exists and an unfair system that exists in the sense that those that accomplish a lot in life and accumulate a certain amount of wealth do not have access for their children to any support through college. Is what I'm promoting fair? Yes, I believe it is. Some would argue that the very rich don't need any money, and there are certainly some that are that very rich. They can afford to put their kids in any school at any cost without a financial burden. But they are a small number and a small percent. There is certainly those that are very poor that need help because their parents have very little or no money and then the person cannot go to college. Currently, we have Pell grants to support some of those who are less fortunate financially. But the way it is now, the very rich and the very poor get some support, and in the whole broad center, the middle class, the lower middle, middle and upper middle, the parents often make enough money not to qualify for Pell Grants, but not enough money to be able to put 2 or 3 kids in school without severe financial burden. Why do I think that my quality education initiative would work? The concept has already been tried in the past by a multimillionaire who went to a low-performing inner-city school at a high rate of dropouts. And he went into the school as an experiment, talked to the teachers and the parents of a class, a first-grade class, and told them that if they were able to get admitted to colleges after they graduated from the 12th grade, he would pay for their college educations. 100% of the students of that inner city class went on to college. The reason is that hope and incentive was provided, and that hope and incentive resulted in parents, teachers, and children working together for academic excellence. Many problems would be resolved by my quality education initiative. Right now, with no hope of going to college, some students perform poorly at school, drop out, get involved in crime, and ultimately end up in penitentiaries where society has to care for them. If they had some hope and incentive, they might stay in school, actually get college degrees, and contribute to society in some way, like a doctor or a lawyer in some other capacity, and certainly contribute in the sense of providing taxes for their laborers into support their government. Currently, there are many good students who are not extraordinary students who cannot get limited merit scholarships. So they still want to go to college, and there's not enough scholarships for them. There are also those that get Pell Grants that are very poor, but we need to have something for the middle class. And there are significant costs to families beyond education for the middle class. There is the standard, typical costs associated with transportation, health, cell phones, food, clothing, insurances. All of these are in addition, and some families have 2 or even 3 students in college at one time. I did. So the burden becomes very excessive to try to do by a family that's not getting any amount of help at all. And without any help, the families, even with the burden they're trying to carry, the students still have to incur a significant amount of debt that is very difficult to try to pay back once they graduate. Also, the economy would be helped by my quality education initiative by matching workers with job openings. Right now, there are approximately 4 million job openings every month that are issued by the report that's issued by the Labor Department, and there are approximately 8 million people who are either unemployed or underemployed. But by teaching the children and giving them an opportunity, they would have the qualifications to fill those job openings, and society would benefit substantially. After World War II, thousands of veterans went to college on the GI Bill. The result was the decades of the 50s and 60s flourishing. Likewise, a similar thing would likely happen today if we provided more support for people to get advanced degrees. The estimated cost of the Quality Education Initiative grant program is $120 billion per year. Much of the cost would be recovered from increased tax revenues in future years over the lifetimes of graduates, because the graduates would only be getting the grants for 4 years, but they would be working at higher pay levels and paying higher tax rates their entire work lifetime. By comparison with the Quality Education Initiative, the cost of free college as proposed by Democrat candidate Bernie Sanders would be much greater than the Quality Education Initiative. The cost is estimated by some to be in the neighborhood of trillions of dollars. In addition, there would be logistical problems. If the tuition was paid at any school, a community college or a top-line school like Harvard, who would decide who got to go in or who didn't to the top schools with tuition paid for everyone? In addition, the federal government would be in constant state of battle with the education community and the universities and colleges about tuition costs that would be fluctuating. The estimated annual cost of $120 billion would be substantially less than the $1,000 billion per year in corporate and individual tax cuts proposed by Republican candidates Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. The true cycle for sustained improved growth is as follows. Create jobs. The created jobs result in increased spending. The spending results in gross domestic product growth. The GDP growth results in creating more jobs, and the cycle goes on. Therefore, it is prudent to use tax dollars to create jobs. Please see my jobs video. The erroneous or flawed cycle for growth promoted by some other candidates is this. Start with tax cuts, which would increase spending, which would cause GDP growth, would cause jobs and additional revenues that would enable more tax cuts, and so forth. This approach is flawed because cuts in corporate taxes are used for stock buybacks, increased dividends, mergers and acquisitions, which usually result in job cuts, and increased executive compensation, not for hiring. Corporations only hire when they believe that demand for their goods and services will increase. Corporations in the past have sat on trillions of dollars rather than hire workers because of perceived insufficient demand for their goods and services. This is what corporations are supposed to do. They are supposed to act in the interest of their shareholders, and to do that is to run the companies they run the most cost-effective way, keeping expenses down and revenues up. They hire people when they believe that the wages for the people they hire will be less than the additional revenues from the services or goods that result from that hiring. And if the economy slows and they believe that the market for their goods and services will decline, the companies in the response of trying to maximize benefit to shareholders will lay off those workers. They won't just carry them. Companies and corporations are not in the business of benevolence. They're in the business of making profit and money for shareholders. So there is a function of government in creating jobs, jobs with infrastructure projects, jobs that are important and need to be done for national security and other reasons, and jobs with education, such as my Quality Education Initiative. Using tax dollars to create jobs with my Quality Education Initiative, the wealth of everyone increases. People with the jobs created spend money on products and services, which result in growth, which in turn results in more jobs and more profit for corporations out of the monies that they're spending. In summary, my Quality Education Initiative will help the country by helping students and families of students and promoting growth. Our Quality Education Initiative will provide hope and incentives to both students and families of students in the accomplishment of academic excellence. This concludes my discussion regarding education. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.